Woo! Mahalo, nerds. This is Cauliflower for the ears. The big show. This is the big show. Well, it's the big show. That's right. It's the big show. Now 2 hours. 2 hours of Cauliflower for the ears for your listening pleasure for our one, maybe two listeners, but I'm not sure. The other guy says yes, so I'm figuring that's Franco in the chat room. Remember, our call-in number is 347-326-9741. 347-326-9741. We'll obviously be reviewing UFC on Fuel 1 and, of course, the big UFC show in Japan, UFC 144. Joining me, as always, is my partner in crime, my fellow loser, Michael Delicious Dolan. What's going on, feller?
What's going on, Dubber? I'm out of protest going to basically sit here for another 28 minutes because I work from 9 to 10 for you assholes, not 8:30 to 10:30, so have fun.
Come on, man, it's the big show. Get pumped.
Nah, it'll be good, man. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to hear Nick Frank gloat for 2 hours.
Yeah, well, speaking of, hailing from Middletown, New Jersey, the one, the only, Ed Kicker himself, Nick Frank. How's it going, Nichols?
Thank you for the introduction. I do feel pretty good.
I just vomited all over my shoes after that. I just want you to know.
You what? Oh man, that was really came down to the wire there between me and you. It was the 10th event last Wednesday.
The scramble.
Yeah. So total scores. That was our third season down. Third place. Actually, we'll go over the nightly totals first. We got 2 hours here, so we got plenty of time.
Yeah, use up words.
You had the best night. You actually had a pretty good night. You had 3 out of 6 fights correct for a total of 22 points, which actually isn't great. It's only about 50%, but me and Dolan each only had 2 out of 6 fights correctly for 12 points, so I really shit the bed there on the last event, and you did gain 10 points on me, but the fact of the matter, Dubs, is that you needed to gain 11 points on me. So after 10 events, it's real funny, as you're picking these fights throughout the year, around here, around there, it doesn't really seem to matter. but it really did matter in this case. Dolan third place with 178 points, and it was a close race between me and the Butcher for first place. The Butcher, 191 total fantasy points, and myself, 192 total fantasy points for the three-peat a la Jordan in the mid-'90s, and the music earlier. Thank you so much for that,
brought me back to the Bulls days. And Nick Frank actually has that as his own theme music, which is pretty unbelievable, right? Like, people would always say it'd be great to have theme music, but Franks and I went to a wake Wednesday night, and this music was playing as he walked in. It was so offensive. It was disgusting. Like, he's sitting there just, like, playing the air guitar, and there's just people mourning the death of somebody. It was unbelievable.
I couldn't believe it.
Go ahead, Deborah.
No, I was going to say, no, he fucking literally texted me, like, about, I think around 8:05, and he's like, yo, man, I want to come in to the Chicago Bulls repeat music of the fucking 90s. And I'm like, and at first I was like, no, dude, it's way too late. You should have told me earlier in the day when I'm out there stealing sound clips for the show. But then I said, fuck it. I guess I can do him a favor. I have my Mr. Perfect music, and he can have the Chicago Bulls music, I guess.
I just hope there's no infringement here either, because we just take music from everywhere. I hope people don't, like, trademark this or, like, companies own music, because we literally just rape and pillage any noise we can take.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't want to call us a radio show. Obviously, we're on the internet. Nobody listens to us, so of course that does put us in the podcast thing. But I'm pretty sure that's what all shows do. I don't think anybody really comes up with that much original stuff. Plus, we don't have like a fucking mixer to do anything with, so I don't think that's our fault.
Well, I think at this point, I think nobody really cares. If we actually get a bit of a following at some point, we might have to do something about that. But at this point, I mean, this is more of a dress rehearsal, I believe.
What's Kurt Hennig going to do?
Dude.
He's dead. He can't do too much.
I hope
to
so.
Yeah.
You guys we took it upon ourselves to put us up for. Go on, bud.
You guys get involved in this Linsanity?
Oh, please. Don't even get started. Don't even get started, dude. Although I did enjoy on ESPN this weekend some horribly offensive material after the Knicks had lost and Lynn had, an abundance of turnovers, which he does tend to do, but he takes to go with the bad with him. The headline was "A Chink in the Armor." It was just unbelievable. Apparently 2 guys got reprimanded who work at ESPN. I just want to know what planet these guys lived on that they thought this was going to fly. Like nobody was going to piece it together. That they were actually calling Jeremy Lin a chink, which is a derogatory term in Nick Frank's role.
I can't believe that they didn't get fired. Like, I saw that headline really quickly, and then I just laughed about it. Those guys are actually still working there?
Oh yeah, they got reprimanded, whatever that means. But I don't know if they released their names or what. But I mean, that's a pretty blatant thing, man. ESPN is a borderline big channel. Like this isn't like the people
borderline.
Well, I'm being sarcastic.
It's the biggest channel out there.
Well, thank you for coming to the show, Dub. 6 minutes late. I was being sarcastic. This isn't like I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, like being a scumbag that I am. I have noticed it, and people pointed it out. Like if you look on the cover of certain Disney cartoons and stuff on their different things like Little Mermaid and stuff. It's pretty awesome. Like some scumbag artists have put like little dicks in the corner and things like that, which is just absolutely horrible and ridiculous, but great for creeps like me. But these guys are on ESPN and basically calling an Asian guy a chink. I just don't understand.
Well,
it's always going to happen.
In their defense, it is a pretty widely used statement, I mean, it's not like you've never heard that term before. There's a chink in the armor, like when a team's doing real good and some bullshit happens, I mean, of course, considering that this band happens to be Asian American and is probably one of the first Asian Americans besides one that was created in a lab like Yao Ming to be a really good player. Maybe it was a poor choice of words, but I mean, it is something that's used,
Dude, that's like referring to like Allen Iverson and the headline being like "monkey see, monkey do." Like you can't do that, dude.
Don't talk about AI, pal.
I mean, like Lynn, the thing wasn't directed towards the Knicks. That was directed towards Jeremy Lin. Him not being good enough, and I don't know. I thought my brother sent me a text telling me, and I thought he was making it up, and I was very pleased to see that he wasn't. But yeah, we'll see. So I'm in that level of insanity. What about you, Frank? You already got your jersey. Obviously, you were a Bulls front runner in the '90s, so I'd imagine you have a Jeremy Lin tattoo by now.
Yeah, I was bad about it with Pip and Rodman and the boys, but at this point, for like a week a good week. I kept hearing about Jeremy Lin, and I really had no idea who he was because I really hadn't watched too much NBA this year, and then I was getting into it a little bit. He seems like a good player, but like you said, he turns the ball over a lot. They're going to start figuring him out, and they got too many scorers on that team. There's no way that they're going to be able to sort of coexist. But it's just, at this point, it's like the Tim Tebow thing that ESPN and the big sports outlets just drove that into the fucking ground. It's just, it was Brett Favre, then Tim Tebow. Now it's Jeremy Lin, and you literally can't watch ESPN for 10 minutes without hearing about Jeremy Lin. So, he's just going to be sort of the next,
Listen, that's what I want to keep talking about.
What's that?
No, I was just going to say, nothing I want to, keep, talking about Lin, but come on, dude. He torched the Mavs for 28 points yesterday and 12 assists. I don't think he's the one who's flash in the pan.
No, I totally agree. It's a good story, and he's a good player, and he's going to be here to stay, and it's like a good human interest. He's from Harvard. He's sleeping on his brother's couch. He is Asian American, but, it's not the only story that's going on right now. They don't, it's like all they talk about. It was like with the Tim Tebow thing. There was a point when Tim Tebow, when they were playing the Patriots, and they were, who would you rather take, Tim Tebow or Tom Brady? It just got ridiculous. And, I heard a similar conversation on ESPN the other day about, Kobe versus Jeremy Lin. It's like, the guy's been playing for a couple weeks. It's very impressive, and it's a story, but let's sort of keep it in perspective here. They get a little carried away with themselves.
Yeah, I think it's a couple things too, man. It's a dead time of year. Pitchers and catchers just reported, so I mean they're obviously going to transition into baseball. And a large part of it is he's in New York. If this were going on somewhere else, then it probably probably wouldn't have as much steam as far as the length of time and the amount of attention it's getting. But it is a good story, and it's just kind of cool. I've been unable to have a favorite team for quite some time. I find the NBA a bit unwatchable, but it is kind of cool to have basketball to be relevant again in New York. So I tossed it on now to see what's going on and what he's doing. But yeah, it's all flash in the pan shit. The difference with him and Tebow is though, with Jeremy Lin, it's what he's doing and the things and how he's helping his team. With Tebow, it's even more ridiculous because they're more pumped up about shit he's not doing. He gets kudos for not, having too many turnovers and only throwing one interception when he's throwing the ball 10 times a game, so Tebow is a little bit more ridiculous, but his was more the clout coming off of the collegiate career and being, an all-time great on the college level and didn't think his game could transcend into the NFL. So I think this Lin thing is a little bit different. But, they interviewed Timmy Tebow about Jeremy Lin, so clearly they would just beat any story into the ground that they can because, basically they're all a bunch of whores.
Absolutely. You know what I say? Fuck both these queers because last night marked the return of the greatest athlete of our generation, Kenny Powers. What about that, boys? Now, that's a big story.
Yeah, that was a solid show, too. Last season was a little bit off for me. I mean, there were some good moments, but last night was funny, man. I'm excited for this year.
Yeah, I was stoked. I was really happy when it came back. I actually was trying to get a bunch of Kenny Powers sound clips. I wanted to really kind of bring his name up with some shit, but I couldn't get anything downloaded in, so we were going to be Kenny Powerless for at least another week here. I apologize, boys.
It's okay. I think the show will go on, I think.
Yeah.
You think so? I really wanted to bring that to the table. But anyway, I guess really what we should be talking about is Franco's dominance in the MMA fantasy world over us, huh, Dolan?
Dude, I don't know. I'm just I suck. I'm not going to claim to be anything different. I just hate that this asshole is the one who's winning though, because he's just like I always say, he's a horrible, horrible loser and an even worse winner. So there's just no one I'd rather not win than this kid. And my disdain for you is really high, Dubs. So the fact that I was actually disappointed that you were that close shows just how much I hate Franco because he's just a big, big asshole. But, we can't do anything unless we win. So I think you and I need to go offline, and we just need to start, almost like two guys at a poker table or on the Internet poker in the same room. We need to start putting our picks together and stacking our chips and maybe folding hands. And I still don't know if we could beat this giant.
I always see one problem with that is that you'd be helping me with my picks, and I'm not too comfortable with that. So I'm going to still do my own thing.
That's very true.
If you notice, I only lost by a point this time. So, you know, if I wouldn't have turned my back on my boy Struve, this thing would have been over, and we wouldn't have had to get the fucking Chicago Bulls.
Frank, does that make it better that he went against Struve and that's what cost him the loss? I mean, that would make it sweeter for me.
I hadn't even thought of that. The only thing that was on my mind that I've sort of gone unnoticed is that, you know, we picked 5 fights like we always pick, and they added that last 6th fight in, like right at the end we added it in because they were putting it on the main card, so we all sort of picked it on the fly, and if we didn't pick that fight, Dubs would have won, because I got that fight right, and you two guys got that fight wrong.
Oh, no.
So that little throw-in fight that we picked on the fly is the fight that won me the season.
Holy shit.
I
blame you, Dolo.
Hey, it was chaotic because, you know, there was dissension amongst which fight actually was the 6th fight. I think, you know, we had all seen that there was a 6th fight last minute, and, you know, I thought it was the Brookings fight, and then you guys thought Franco thought it was another fight, and shockingly Franco got his way because he's a huge baby, and I'm not surprised.
I was right. That was the fight that was on.
He was right.
No, he was right and there's wrong.
The only reason I feel vindicated is because the Brookings fight actually was on. I don't care if it got thrown in last minute. If it supports my
argument,
argument,
it was a replay.
I don't care about anything else.
It wasn't on live.
Excuse me, sir. Can I finish? Can I finish? All right, I'm finished.
Oh,
Take
God.
your win, asshole. I don't need to throw my face in it.
I mean, are you guys sure you even want to do this again? Should we just follow it? Should I just rap and you guys can go head to head?
I personally don't want to do this
mine.
anymore.
You know?
No, I'd officially like to take my ball and go home, to be perfectly honest, but I won't give that dickbag the satisfaction.
This should be good. This is going to be a long season, boss.
I think this is going to be your time, Dolo, to shine.
Yeah, I had off today, so, you know, luckily I parlayed that into having off tonight because I'm sure all my picks will suck. But, yeah, I had off today. What about you, Creep Nasty? Did you work?
No, I had off. I had the shower over the weekend, so we were, you know, putting shit away in the house all day.
Frank's wedding shower was this weekend.
Well, it's for her. It's not for me. I just went there and wrapped up. We had way too much estrogen in that room. I walked in there, 50 women all grinning at me, taking pictures. I was like, I have to get the hell out of here.
You didn't have to play any kind of game? I thought the dudes had to play some douchey game. Like they make the guys stay and play one quick game.
No, I brought her there, and then me and her brother went back to pick all the present stuff and walk them into the car and shit. But I mean, I was there for like 10, 15 minutes in the beginning and 10 or 15 minutes at the end.
There you go.
Frank, do you want to divulge into what went into actually tricking your future bride into the shower, or is that too embarrassing?
Yeah, well, her mother had this idea that we basically made up a fake wedding invitation from one of my coworkers with a fake return address, and the invitation was mailed to us. We RSVP'd to it. So she has thought the whole time that we're going to my coworker's wedding. Meanwhile, it's been her surprise shower. And her mother also told her that she was going down to Florida to take a trip to visit her sister for the weekend, and had my fiance drive her to the train station, watch her get on the train, and she took the train one stop and went home. So there was a lot that went into the shower. She was completely surprised, and I'm just happy that it's over, in all honesty.
All right, Dubs. Those were the cliff notes, and that's what Nick Frank wanted you to know. And now I'm going to divulge into just kind of setting the tone and setting the state. He's 100% factual, and he's a good sport about it. But I just want to put some visuals out there. So for all the Cauliflower listeners, I would like you to get to your happy place, sit in the Indian style, and close your eyes and picture this. A couple of things that come to mind for me. One, I want to know if the post office was in cahoots for this, or is there just some poor bastard who got an RSVP at whatever this address was to a mock wedding?
It was her mother's coworker's address.
Oh, okay, awesome, very good. Shows some very good planning. Now, two, I would like to set this. Can anyone else picture that Nick Frank, this poor bastard, had to put a fucking suit on Saturday? And pretend to go to this goddamn wedding. Like, he couldn't just, he had to put the whole nines on. He had to put the whole thing on. Poor Justine was in probably some kind of dress to go to a wedding. a Saturday afternoon wedding, and Nick Frank is in a suit to the nines to stand there and get the douche chills, so I hope you had a vest on for the douche chills you got, and then proceed to go home and sit on your ass and just shake your head and contemplate this is going to be the next 60 years of your life.
Well, here's the worst part. So we're getting all ready to go, and the wedding, the invitation says we need to be there at 3, and the plan was to get, like, all the girls for the shower were to go right around 3 or a little bit before, and we're supposed to be there around 3:30 to ensure that everybody's going to be there. So, you know, I'm like, it's no rush. We'll be there by 3:30. So then we both start running a little bit late. So we rush out of the house, and I'm sort of rushing her at this point now because I don't want them waiting too long. We're on our way, and, you know, she's like, we need a card. We need to buy a card. I'm like, I'm like, fuck. So I start getting angry and losing my temper.
One job to do. It's the card. So, he blows it.
I'm so, you know me, so even-keeled. So I start to lose my temper and yell. And I said, just put the fucking check in the envelope. I'll explain it to him later. We don't need a card. We're running late. We're being rude. But that wasn't going to fly. So we had to stop. I ran into the Rite Aid. I picked the first card that I could find. I jotted her names in it real quick, put the check in that I knew we were going to be ripping up in about 20 minutes into the envelope, sealed it, and we were on our way. So that's another part that I didn't mention earlier.
The only thing that would be better is if Frank's got a paper cut on his mouth licking the envelope closed in this card that he knew he was going to rip up. Who'd you make the check out to, dude? Did you make it to this guy or did you make it to Cash?
Cash. And Cash. And my poor girlfriend, I get the card, and I'm like, all right, just sign it, you know, from Nick and Justine. And, you know, she's like, I can't sign it while you're driving or whatever. I get dizzy when I look down. And I'm like, just fucking sign it. So then I start driving on my knees, and I'm signing it as I drive. And then, you know, we're about halfway there, and I realize I need to start being nice to her because, you know, the shower's coming up. So I need to sort of set the mood, and I got to tell her I love her and whatever, and stop yelling. So I was able to get my temper under control, and we had a beautiful day.
Frank, did you sign the card like Sideshow Bob? Did you prick your finger and write it in blood? Because at that point you were so mad.
I'm just like, because she's like, we need a card, we need to write the check. I want to be like, I'm like, in my head, this is such a fucking waste of time. Fine. Whatever. I was like, just throw a check in an envelope and I'll explain it to him at work tomorrow. She's like, no, she's like, we need a card. We're going to a wedding.
Oh, my God, dude. That's amazing. I got to tell you, man, you are a true sport. I mean, knowing Justine, she's well worth it. But I'd say barely, because that sounds like pure fucking insanity. Oh, my God, dude. I was worried that my future beautiful bride was going to blow it because she was running a little bit late herself. And, you know, we were at a family function, and then she was leaving, and I was just shaking my head because she left at like 5 to 3. We were like 25 minutes from where the shower was, and I'm just like, you know, it would be amazing if he just blew this whole thing, to be honest, because seeing Nick Frank in a suit, basically beating his chest like Homer Simpson, and ripping the antenna off his car, if, you know, fucking Cat blew the whole thing, would be even better. It would just be pure aces.
It was a lot of stress, but we're happy that it's over, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, congratulations, buddy. You are a great A trooper.
You're definitely a saint, Franco.
And I think
definitely
this story just pretty much solidified why your brother Alex laughs at both you and I for getting married and calls us assholes, because this is just another thing that he laughs that he'll never do because he's a dick.
Add that to the list. He'll never do that or throw a bachelor party. Those are two things that he'll never do.
Exactly.
No bachelor party for you, Franco?
Well, Big Al's on the case, but it doesn't seem like we're making too much headway here. So eventually, I'm sure he'll come up with something, but nothing.
Yeah, just go down to Untouchables, check out, get a couple lap dances. That's all. That's a good enough bachelor party, right?
That's all you need to do. Yeah, basically, I'll probably be like Oz behind the curtain pulling the strings, and then Al Bones will get all the credit. It'll be great. Which is true for him. I was trying to, you know what I was trying to do, Dubs? I was trying to get a skydiving expedition for this creep's bachelor party. And unfortunately, we had a few people that were afraid of heights, and I just told them they were insanely selfish, but, you know, they won. So, unfortunately,
would you want to do that? Would you really want to go skydiving? I mean, that's fucking ridiculous.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't want to do that.
I would love to, man. Come on. What superpower would you not want to have besides invisibility, the ability to fly?
I don't know about that.
I guess if I
could fly, I wouldn't be worried about fucking dying. So, yeah, I guess it would be kind of cool. Good point. But I don't think I want to jump out of a plane and be hurtled down to my death, whether I have a parachute or not. I don't think
you can die. Come on. You have 9 lives, and I think you've used 3 of them. So you're playing with house money.
I have used 3. So I don't know if I want to keep playing with fire, you know. That's my life's all that precious to me. But I have been through a couple rough patches and somehow woken up the next day, one time in the hospital. But, hey, whatever. Shit happens. But I don't think I'm going to jump out of a plane and survive that if the parachute don't open.
You don't want to help its cause. Yeah. You don't want to be reckless about it. I like it. I like it. It's a man who's learned from his lessons. But
well, sure. You know, I don't have that piss and vinegar in me anymore. It's all gone. It's all over. I don't need to jump out of a plane, bro. Don't need it.
So Debs, did you realize, were you keeping score as we were going last Wednesday? Like, were you keeping score fight by fight?
Absolutely. Up until
you realized
I knew I was in the lead for going into the Diego fight, and then those first 2 rounds. What's up?
Well, if Ellenberger would have stopped him at any point, you would have won the season. And the only way I could have won at that point was an Ellenberger decision.
Holy shit!
I was down by 6, so I needed 7 points. I had Ellenberger by decision. So at any point, if he would have stopped him, you would have won by 1.
Yeah, you know, I wasn't 100% sure if my math was right because obviously I don't really pay attention. I keep forgetting to write down the scores, but I did actually have it right, and I did have myself up by 6. But I was like, you know what, I could be wrong. And maybe even if Franco gets the win in any way, he might win. But, yeah, of course you got the perfect thing, the decision. Here's the thing that pissed me off. I thought it was a 5-rounder. And then, of course, Diego Sanchez came storming back the way he did. And if that would have went into a 4th round, I don't think you got your win there, buddy. I think Ellenberger was done. I think he was pretty much gassed out, and Diego Sanchez finally found his mark in that 3rd round.
Is there merit to that, Nick? What do you think about that? Is there merit to that? Because I think that's a very good point that Dubs brings up, and I've heard that a lot on the Internet being debated, and Dana White has come out and said they've dropped the ball, right? They've already, implemented the 5-round main event, but it has been on a discretionary basis. He said going forward it is nothing but 5-round main events. So with this being the case, can you play that game, right? So Ellenberger wins the first 2 rounds, loses the second, and Diego has him in a lot of trouble in the 3rd. Do you think it's fair to say Diego wins that fight if it goes to a 5th round, or if it's a 5-round fight, or is it just you can't make that call?
Well, I think, like you said, this is the talk sort of around the town, and Dana had said that he's going to 5 rounds, but there are, I guess, maybe a couple fights that have already been signed for 3 fights. So he said going forward for contracts that have not been signed. So there still might be 1 or 2 on FX or Fuel that might be 3-rounders, just because that's where the contracts were signed, but. It's like, when people say if you go back in time, and you kill a butterfly, it can change the course of the world. The reason I say that is because you've never heard that. Like if you go back in time and you do something really minuscule, it could change the entire course of history. Like a domino effect.
It was called Back to the Future, bro. That movie
was called Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher.
But my point being, Ellenberger's fighting that fight. Ellenberger's fighting thinking it's a 3-rounder, so that's a completely different fight. So the way that fight was playing out, I would say probably, Diego looked like he was getting the upper hand. Ellenberger looked like he was gassing out, and, Diego won that 3rd round convincingly, and, whether he was going to finish him or just win the 4th and 5th. But if it was a 5-round fight, maybe Ellenberger paces himself a little bit more. Maybe he doesn't go for the finish quite as hard. Maybe, a million different things. It's a completely different fight when you're fighting for 5 rounds than when you're fighting for 3. So it's sort of an unfair argument to say that Diego definitely would have won that fight just because it's a different fight at 5 rounds.
And that's
Ellenberger,
the point.
I mean, he's sort of, one knock on him has been his conditioning. If there's a knock that he sort of fades as he gets into, the deeper rounds, and it looked like that was happening. But fucking, everybody says it. Diego Sanchez is a dog, man. That guy, you cannot finish him. He gets stronger as the fight goes on, and he just loves to mix it up. And, he's just one of the most exciting guys. I love watching him fight. He's never out of the fight. It's great.
Yeah. That's the point I was hoping you were going to make, because that's how I felt as well, and to where I understand people's point, and maybe they were more Diaz fans, or even someone just looking at it, purely as like an independent third party with no rooting interest. From that point in that body of work, I mean, Diego had Ellenberger extremely hurt, and then had him on his back, and was about to choke him out. But Ellenberger was going into that as if it was a 3rd-round fight. So I think it's completely unfair. Do I think the end result should be future main events being 5-round fights? Yes, but I just don't think. I think Ellenberger certainly would have paced himself, and maybe he would have gassed. Who knows? Because he he really faded, but some of that could have been attributed to a bit of an adrenaline dump with fighting at home in Omaha, Nebraska, in front of his home fans. But, yeah, that's the tough argument, because if that fight was even after 3 rounds and it was scheduled for 3 and it went to 4 as a sudden death, I think Diego definitely wins that fight just because Ellenberger's gassed. But if going in, they had both trained for a 5-round fight and had been fighting a 5-round pace, I don't know you can make that argument. So I think you're right, and that's where I was hoping you were going to go. And you can always play devil's advocate, but, yeah, I think it's just too tough to call, and you can't take a thing away from Ellenberger because that dude's tough as hell. And, I mean, we've all seen Diego's body of work. That guy, I would pay to see that guy fight every single time. He never disappoints you.
Nah, he's definitely an exciting fighter. He's an animal in there. But, you know, you both do make an interesting point because, you know, that to be quite honest, obviously it's because I'm stupid. That thought that didn't even enter my head till you guys brought it up. But you definitely have a good argument there that Ellenberger could have paced himself differently and maybe left some reserves in the tank. But, you know, Diego after the fight, of course, complained and said he thought it was a 5-round fight and then brought up all these injuries he had in training camp. Well, what did you think of that classy move?
Wait a second. Diego said he thought it was a 5-round fight during the 3-round fight?
Yeah, he said I thought all main events were 5-round fights. I was training for a 5-round fight, and then he went through this whole thing about 2 weeks ago before the fight.
Yeah.
He sprained both his ankles badly, and it's just a miracle by the grace of God. Of course, everybody says God makes them better and stuff. That he even was able to fight tonight, and then he got booed royally by the crowd.
Yeah, not surprising being in Ellenberger's hometown. I hate to see that stuff, even if it was true. I don't need to hear that. It actually kind of, you know, it takes away from Diego's amazing performance he had put on. Like, everybody goes in nicked up, and because I remember, you're right, he did say that, and he said he could barely walk, and guys were saying how are you going to be able to fight and stuff. And I get it. There's a time and a place, and there's a post-fight press conference to where maybe you can say that, but at that point it just sounds like sour grapes. The fact that it's a 3rd round, he thinks it's a 5-round fight in the actual 3rd round tells me 2 things. 1, he is every bit of the mongoloid he appears to be, and 2, I mean, you know, where's Greg Jackson? Where's fucking Yoda? Where, you know, everybody's, you know, lapping up his ball sack. Like, maybe you might want to tell your guy in the 2nd round as he's getting his shit broke, hey, buddy, there's 1 more, not 3 more. Like, maybe you want to talk about that before the fight.
He knew it was a 3-rounder. I think he was saying, like, you know, I thought it was 5 rounds. Like, what the fuck? This one should have been 5 rounds. But like
that's not valid, bro. Like, that, again, then that just sounds like sour grapes.
He was just complaining. Yeah, no, you're totally right. He was saying, I want it to be 5 rounds. He's retarded, number one. One of the most exciting fighters. He literally is probably the stupidest guy in the UFC. And I don't think he was making excuses. I don't think he was making excuses,
dude.
About the, first of all, it was Ellenberger's crowd. So he's one of these, like, you know, born-again Christian retards. And so that's his whole MO. So I think what he was saying was, you know, I shouldn't even be walking right now. I had this injury 10 days ago. It's only by the grace of God that I was in the cage. So I really don't think he was saying I lost the fight because of the injury. I think he was saying, you know, God is great. He allowed me to perform all that fucking nonsense.
Oh.
But, you know, who knows with the kid. But I don't think, you know, obviously the crowd, whenever you lose a fight and you bring up an injury immediately, the crowd's going to boo. It's just human nature. But I was thinking about this beforehand, and afterwards I think the person who gained the most from this fight that came out, you know, smelling like roses really was Greg Jackson, because the winner of this fight is going to basically be next in line for a title shot. And Carlos Condit is the champion. Diego Sanchez, had he won this fight, these guys train in the same camp. They both have the same manager. And, you know, Diego said, listen, I'll fight this guy if I'm getting the shot at the title. Condit said he would fight him. But it would be a really hairy situation, especially with the fact now that Carlos Condit has the option to either wait for GSP or to take a challenger in the interim. And so now the manager's in the case where he's going to be fighting for Diego to get his title shot, but he's got to turn around now and represent Carlos Condit and do what's best for Condit in his interest, which would be to wait for GSP. So the manager even said, had Diego won the fight, he would have 2 different negotiations. He'd have a negotiation with Diego, and he would go to the UFC and say, listen, my guy deserves a title shot right now, give him a title shot. Then he would turn around and talk to Carlos Condit and tell him it's in his best interest
to wait for GSP and go to the UFC and say, listen, my guy doesn't want to fight Diego. He wants to wait for GSP. So this would have been the biggest clusterfuck in the history of the sport. And Greg Jackson, guys, he goes out. He performs extremely well in the loss. So he doesn't move down the rankings. He doesn't lose any respect, and he doesn't have to deal with his headache. So it worked out perfectly for him.
I wonder in that negotiation, Nick, if Greg Jackson would have been in a room with Dana White and would have, like, literally his hat forward and be like, listen, my guy deserves a title shot, Diego Sanchez. He looks great. He should fight Carlos Condit. Yeah, I think that's what should happen. And then he would literally just stand there and then flip his hat back, like, over the top. And then he would just be like, hey, listen, my guy fought Nick Diaz. He won. He's got to wait for GSP. This is bullshit. And then Dana White's just looking at him while Fertitta's just banging rails on the glass table in the boardroom. Just like, what is going on right now?
Dolan, it's not even, they have the same camp, but they also have the same management.
Yeah, I know. That's amazing.
So it wouldn't even have been Greg Jackson.
So all three would have been lined up with Jackson, so he would just have a shitstorm.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it would be another situation like the Rashad John Jones thing. It would have, and he wouldn't have been able to really corner each guy. It would have been a huge clusterfuck. If he looked happy after the fight. He looked happy because the guy looked good and he lost. I thought he looked ecstatic after the fight.
I think Greg Jackson would just be making it rain. He'd just walk in with his balls on the table, just like, either way, I'm getting paid, so you guys can figure out what we want to do here. But anyway, you fight here. I got a piece of all three. Basically, it's like Greg Jackson's Bugs Bunny, where he throws the ball as the quarterback and then runs down the field and catches the 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah, nice happy. What's up, Franco?
No,
he's kicking like a schoolgirl over there. he's just giddy over his win. That creep. He doesn't even know we're on the air right now. He's with Fertitta doing rails.
Good stuff.
Well, what about the next fight where I turned my back on my boy? Stephen Struve was supposed to be fighting Pee Wee Herman, and then the fucking Yeti walked into the ring.
Oh,
I mean, I don't know. Did you see that fucking man suit? That was amazing. That thing was fucking out of control. I had no idea. I mean, his last fight, he was clean shaven from head to toe. I thought the guy was a nice little twink, and now he's the Yeti out there. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I thought it was fake, dude. Like, I honestly thought it was a costume.
I did too.
Because I had gone to take a piss. And then when I had come in, I was looking at it, and I was just like, what's going on here? Like you said, his last fight, he was clean cut and had blonde hair, and all he looked like he had just spent 7 months in a cave in, Afghanistan.
That was a sweet beard, but in the interviews, I just thought he grew the beard out. Then he came out and took the shirt off. I was like, holy fuck, dude, this is a hairy beast. I couldn't fucking believe it. You look like your brother, dude, when he goes to the beach.
Which one, dude? That's the only reason I'm glad that I got these creamy auburn hair, dude. Otherwise, I'd be an effing gorilla. I'd be the third one on the evolutionary chart, like my two brothers.
No, yeah. No,
yeah, Herman was coming out. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Herman looked really good.
Go for it.
Oh, no, good. So I thought Herman looked fucking good in that first round. I was playing for points just like you were. So basically, you had Herman first round knockout. I had Herman second round knockout. So basically, if Dave Herman would have knocked him out in the first round, you would have won the season because I wouldn't have been able to. I wouldn't have been able to make up on points. And Herman was fucking stalking him down in that first round. He was landing some good shots. He had absolutely no respect for what Struve was throwing. And in my head, I'm just like, all you need to get through the first round, Struve. Just get through the first round, and I'm still alive here. And then, the fight completely turned around after that. Struve had said that he was jet-lagged, and that's why he looked so bad in the first round, that he just didn't feel like himself, and he couldn't find his rhythm. But he turned it around quickly, and, I don't know about Herman, man. He's got the skills, but I don't know how seriously he takes. He looks to be fucking around a little bit in there. Dana White even said afterwards that, he doesn't like that. He doesn't like the music that he came out to. He said the whole hair thing and some of the outlandish things that he says. He's like, I'd rather a guy just get noticed for their ability to fight rather than all this, extraterrestrial shit. Extraterrestrial.
So what, did he have E.T. walk him out?
So he was saying the same shit that, basically it sounds like it's going to be put up or shut up for Dave Herman next time out. But, Struve came in about 10 pounds heavier than ever. He looked like he filled out a little bit. If he legitimately gets his technique down, something like 6'11", who's going to be able to deal with a guy like that? He's still only 24 years old. The sky's the limit for this kid. If he keeps looking better, it's going to be hard for anybody to beat this kid.
Well, he used to be a kickboxer, so I don't know why he did take as long as he did to get on track. His hands should be better than what he has shown, and I was very surprised. Like, I thought, because going into the fight, I was like, all right, I got a lead. I could get this win by Struve, because I was, of course, secretly pulling for Struve, but at the same time, like you said, I knew if I would have gotten what I picked, I win the season, and I don't have to listen to your fucking bullshit today. But, it looked like you said, he was sluggish, and it took a while for him to get on track. But when he got on track, I mean, Herman had no answer for what was going on, because the reach alone, that's what Florian kept saying. This kid's got to learn to work that jab better, because the jab, the reach that he has with that jab, there's nobody who can get in there and really test his chin as long as he works it. So, he's just got to really work that out and work his boxing better, because, if he can keep dudes at bay, like you said, dude, the sky's the limit. There's nothing anybody can do to this guy.
Yeah, he's still got plenty of room to grow, which is what's probably the most exciting thing about Struve. And to really, it could be a byproduct of what we see with a lot of guys, to where if they have a strength and, what gets them there, maybe sometimes they tend to get away from it, once they start working other parts of their game, because we do see he has an excellent submission game, but there's just no reason to not use that length and his ability just to keep people at bay. When you're Herman, I mean, you come out looking like that, you better win. That's the only way you're going to get away with something like that, is basically come out and put on a performance where Dana White has to basically chuckle about it. He'll probably still kind of douche you out a little bit, because he's never really one who doesn't speak his mind. But what can the guy say if you keep winning? But, he just looked like a complete asshole. It was amazing. I would like to know what these guys do. What do you guys think? You think these guys are waxing, or are they shaving the body?
They got to be waxing it.
You think they're waxing? I'm going
to delicious.
I'm going to the Dominican last week, and I started shaving my chest so I could be at optimal physical performance with my coworkers. And I'm getting like red bumps on my chest and stuff.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, dude. Yeah, like that's what I'm thinking. And I would like to personally either shave or get waxed from my gooch to my eyebrows, because there's really no separation amongst them. And I guess the razor would give it the bumps, but I would think with the waxing, you'd have to be doing it early enough, because, I don't know, I'm basing it off a 40-year-old virgin, but when my man was getting waxed, he was bleeding pretty steadily at that point. So, I don't know, man. I guess just another thing I'll never have, like these guys, besides amazing B-sacks and buffed-up chests. It's just my hair game is always going to be subpar at best. But I did get some enjoyment that Dubs did not pick Struve. Just because, it was pretty hysterical just to see it go down that way. But, Herman looked like he gassed. He obviously is a guy who has heavy hands. He's just a guy who, if he doesn't finish you early, he's probably going to be in trouble himself. And I was impressed by Struve, although he never got caught by Herman like Nelson had caught him. He definitely got popped a few times clean, so the kid's shown a propensity to take a punch. And like Franco said, I mean, the kid's 24 years old. He's filling out. He's still waiting for his balls to drop, for God's sake. So he can continue to get better, and I think he's a guy that the organization likes, because he never backs down from a fight, and he's always in a fight. I mean, outside of getting caught by Big Country, this kid really hasn't really looked bad, and he's definitely young. He's somebody they can work with, and he's not a guy you're going to run into the bullshit with like you are with Herman and some of these other guys coming out and just full-on banana hammocks and whatnot. So it was a good win for him, and I'm excited to see what comes of Struve next.
Yeah, no, I'm never going to turn my back on my boys again. I know Jake Shields is on this card coming up, so I'm sure you guys know which way I'm going with that.
You would never pick against him, though, man. I mean, that's
absolutely
that's a different story.
I know it's a little bit of a spoiler for later on in the show, but yeah, no, I'm going Jake Shields. All right. All right, I guess we'll finish up this card here. Aaron Simpson versus Roddy Marquez. Looks like it kind of went the way I said, Franco. I said Roddy Marquez was the younger guy. He was going to go in there and take care of business. But I was actually very surprised that Aaron Simpson was, not that I disrespect his fighting ability. I just thought the younger guy was really going to be a really tough test, especially since he's normally a 205er. I thought his strength and just overall probably being quicker than the older guy in there, it was really going to be a problem. But Aaron Simpson hung in, and, of course, Mark's got the split decision. But I was pretty impressed with Aaron Simpson overall.
But I think you word that on, basically. The pick was perfect. That is what happened. If you take away, Simpson landed that big uppercut, I think it was in the first round, and he was just about to finish him It looked like he was right there. He just didn't land that one extra shot that he needed to land, have the ref jump in. Because of the fact that Mark is such a big guy, Simpson was able to sort of hold his own in the, in the clinch and in the wrestling game. But, Mark was probably, they said 215 at the time of this fight. Simpson was in the low 190s, so he's getting outweighed by 20 pounds. Mark's really crisp striking, incredibly strong, good jiu-jitsu, strong wrestling. A lot of times, sometimes the Brazilian fighters and the guys that aren't from America don't get recognized for their wrestling. This kid has good wrestling. The kid was a decent-sized light heavyweight. He's a huge middleweight. Aaron Simpson after the fight. Listen, he landed that big punch. He definitely has punching power. If that was a legitimate, a smaller guy, a natural 185er, he probably knocks him out cold. And, Simpson's now talking about going down to 170 because his natural weight is right around 190 to 195, so he could lean out a little bit and cut from 188 or so to 170 just because he just said after the fight the kid was just way too big and strong. I was doing everything I could to deal with him, but, the kid was 25 times heavier than me. So it looks like Simpson's going to take a run at 170 just because there's not much left for him at 185 either.
Yeah, it's definitely a smart move. I mean, it was so obvious how much stronger Marks was.
I was disappointed at the end of the day, though, just because, like an asshole, I hopped on Franco's bandwagon. I was torn about who to pick on this fight, and I originally had Marks down via knockout. I'm not, I might as well say it. Yeah, I had Marks' decision. I am that good. I just second-guessed myself. But don't let the other 11 weeks of stellar, shitty performance fool you. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was going to be, Simpson pretty much laying on him and just trying to point out Marks, and it couldn't have been more the opposite, which is consistent with everything that I say. So he caught the big uppercut, and Marks looked like he was pretty much done. So you have to give him credit for his chin. He trains with Aldo and all those other boys in Brazil, so they're really high on him. He's extremely gifted, physically to be able to cut from, his 205 to 185. So this hopefully will be a home for Marks and see what'll come going forward. But with him being able to cut the weight, and by the time the fight comes again, being a little bit closer to 200 pounds, this is going to be a distinctive advantage for him. And he is a young kid. I believe he's 23 or 24 years old. Simpson has to move now because I think he's a game fighter no matter where he goes, but the guy's 36 years old. He clearly has a propensity to teach as well, whether it be in wrestling or MMA. But he could teach in college, which he had done at Arizona State. So he has other things he can do. So he probably figures, what the hell, I'll move a weight class, see how it goes for a little bit, collect a check, and kind of go from there. But I don't see him making noise anywhere he goes, but he could be a good kind of test gatekeeper, so to speak, for another couple of years and kind of go from there. But certainly a feather in the cap for Marks because Simpson is a tough dude, and anybody that has Simpson on their resume as far as a W is somebody that can really maybe do some things going forward. So it was a good fight overall.
Yeah, he's a big boy. He'll definitely do some damage in that division, but. I hope Aaron Simpson makes the move because obviously he can't hang with the big boys in that division. But this fight, obviously you two nut-huggers were on the Phil DeFries train, and I told you Stipe Miocic was the up-and-comer to look for. And, of course, I picked him UD, but he ended up knocking out DeFries. What did you think of this one, Dolan?
It was an awesome fight. This one I'm not going to claim any kind of, bullshit. I really didn't know a ton about either of these guys. The one thing I did know is when they both came in the ring, I said, fuck. Because just looking at the two of them, I was like, oh, no. With the DeFries guy, he just looked a little bit doughy. He certainly seems to be a good fighter, but, Stipe is no joke. I mean, he's an absolute beast with his hands. He seems like a guy who, he got stronger when he got hit. DeFries caught him pretty much on the button, and he looked like he was probably had his bell rung a little bit, but he never really buckled, and he just came forward, and he looked pissed after the fight. Like Joe Silva came to shake his hand. He shook his hand real quick. He was walking around just like mouthing. He was just like, fuck. I didn't know what was going on, but I mean, this kid's legit, man. 8-0, And, you know, he's a baby as far as MMA is concerned. I think he started in 2010. So if this kid can move around, I don't know what camp he's in. I know he's based out of Ohio, but I don't know if he's training with my boy Matt Hamill or what. But if he can move around, and, dude, if you want to be an asshole, I didn't say anything. If you want to take it to that level, we can. I was just referencing Matt Hamill, all right? So your move, sir. But hopefully he can move around and get with some camps, because this kid has the hands and the wrestling background. That is a great template for a really, really dangerous guy at the heavyweight division. And if he can take a punch, I don't know how DeFries hits. I don't know. He looks a little doughy, but he is a big boy. He's like 250, so anybody who's 250 hitting you can't feel good. But if he can really put it all together, this kid is definitely going to be, you know, kind of like somebody maybe we're going to look at like a Phil Davis, where the sky's the limit if he gets the right fights at the right time and really can time it out. But I was blown away by him.
Yeah, I think you hit on a couple good points there, Dolan. First of all, DeFries, I hadn't seen Miocic fight. I saw a couple clips on him. I'd seen DeFries fight, but he had fought Rob Broughton, who's, you know, a big, even doughier fighter. So I thought when DeFries looked, he looked a bit doughy to me too, just because he wasn't standing next to Rob Broughton. But you know, Miocic, he's obviously got great striking. And, you know, DeFries isn't really known as a boxer, so he ate some good shots from him. But I was watching the fights, and I was on Twitter, and a lot of the fighters were saying, oh, you know, he looks great. But, you know, if he's in there against, you know, a top-level striker, he's probably get knocked out there. I mean, he showed that he could take a punch, but he had no head movement. You know, his defensive boxing was just terrible. He sort of, like you just said, he just kind of walked through it and continued to throw bombs. But, you know, if you're in there against you're not getting the title shot, but Junior Dos Santos or a heavyweight with precise striking that, you know, has a bit of power behind it, he needs to just improve his technique a little bit. He just made for an exciting fight, but sort of just walked forward, ate some punches, and knocked the kid out. But exciting. I mean, if we can get a heavyweight that's in there trying to knock people out in the first round, like it looked like he was going to, people are going to watch those fights. I think he needs to work on his defense a little bit. Or maybe it was just the fact that he had absolutely no respect for DeFries' hand, so he figured he could just walk right through them. You know, maybe he does have more technique. He just didn't show it, but you know, you can't eat square shots against heavyweights like he did against DeFries and last for long.
Well, I think he definitely trains. If you look at his his background. I mean, I know he's new in it. Like Dolo said, he just started in 2010, so all those things are going to have to come into into the fold as time goes on. But I'm pretty sure he trains us mainly in boxing and Muay Thai, so that head movement should come. And if it does, he's definitely going to be a pretty big force in the heavyweight division, because he definitely looked good. He looks like he's got heavy hands. So if he can put it all together with some defense, then sky's really the limit for the guy. Because I don't know, I was pretty impressed by it, especially because like you said, Franco, we don't know how hard DeFries hits, but he definitely took a couple good shots, and it looked like it woke him up, but it definitely looked like it made him angry, too, and he just went on the attack because he didn't want to eat any more of those. So I think Miocic's definitely somebody to look out for. Now, the next two fights I didn't see because my shitty cable provider, Comcast, apparently doesn't carry Fuel TV, and I didn't know that. So I turned on the TV, and I sat down, and apparently I don't get Fuel. So I had to go online and find some shitty feed. But by the time I finally found one, two fights had gone by. So I do know how they ended up, but I didn't see them. So I'm going to rely on you guys to tell me how they went. I know Dillashaw beat Lyle Watson by unanimous decision. Wait, did he win? Yeah, he won by UD. That's what I picked. But I didn't see it, so.
Yeah, well,
I don't know what I'm talking about. I didn't see the fucking fight, so you guys tell me about it.
To touch on, you just said about Fuel TV, I think a lot of people are Dola, you get Fuel TV, right?
I do. It's the Verizon package. They don't have an HD channel, but yeah, it's like $198 on my Verizon, so I was able to get that.
Yeah, I get it too, but they, a lot of people were searching for the fights, and now they're actually starting to put it, not just programming, but actual live events on Fuel. They're starting to get some pressure. So I saw the numbers. They released the ratings. We'll sort of touch on these two fights in a second, but they had a live fight card with Diego Sanchez Ellenberger headlining it. This whole fight card. So it averaged, the average viewership for the whole telecast was like 200. I think it was 206,000. It was just over 200,000, which is low. But there's only, I think, about 30 million homes that get Fuel TV. Fuel TV is the least watched major cable network out of all the cable networks and all the major cable providers. Fuel TV is dead last. So they don't have a lot of people. Time Warner doesn't have it. Comcast doesn't have it. So it's not in a lot of homes. So it's got 205,000, 210,000. Spike TV played a Diego Sanchez marathon. Remember, Dolan, you were talking about it last week?
Mm-hmm. Nice.
They averaged over 600,000 viewers. So they tripled. They tripled the live event. Spike TV tripled it. So, that goes to show you what the ratings look like for the event.
But that could be really to the point you're making, though, Nick. I think it's a combination of things because, it's a good move by Spike TV, right? Because I was saying to you, what were they, what's the game plan here? Why are they doing this Diego thing? And you made a great point that, obviously why not mirror it and have a Diego marathon since he's headlining the other card? And, I think it's a combination of things. I mean, being a big UFC fan, now I think the engine will be behind it, and if you just don't have it in your home, you don't have it in your home. But I did have it, and I didn't know for a long time, man. Like, I couldn't fucking find it, for a while. I found it, a month ago, Fuel TV, so I was actually looking for it and had a hard time finding it. So hopefully they'll start marketing it and kind of putting it out there. If you just can't get it, you can't get it. But it's basically become the UFC network. I mean, honestly, any time of day you go on there, it seems to have UFC stuff on there. They have some good shows on there, too, man. I mean, they have a UFC Tonight on every single night, which is really good. Kenny Florian's on it. With a guy, John Antis or something like that, and he's good as well. And they always have guests. It's a good show, and they have the Pride.
Got the best of Pride. Yeah, I was just going to say
exactly.
that.
They have all that.
Almost every day they got a new one. They had a heavyweight marathon on the other night. They were showing Mark Coleman versus
hosting it
versus Don Fry. It was good.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're really doing a good job, and it's almost like by default, like I used to do for Spike. I used to go to Spike just to see what was going on, and, most of the time you find the UFC stuff, but eventually they just ran out of, the archived footage, and it was the same stuff, and it just seems like on any time of day I just throw it on Fuel TV, and I'm going to get something on there, and they ran Rampage and Jones's pay-per-view on Saturday. They're just running a lot of shit, and I think the UFC is forced to actually show a lot of full pay-per-views now on that channel because Spike is running a counter to them and using a lot of the footage that's going to run out at the end of this year for Spike TV. So I think it's just going to force the UFC to kind of, move forward with it a little bit. But, if you don't have Fuel TV, I mean, there's just nothing you can do, and the UFC is going to have to try to do something and start talking to Time Warner and these other companies to get it on their packages because otherwise, they're kind of effed.
Well, I know when they were looking for the new TV deal, UFC, they were kind of looking for a channel that they could kind of call their own. So maybe when they, got the bite from Fox, the whole thing with Fuel being such a shitty network kind of opened up an avenue for them to put all this programming on and kind of take the channel over, which is going to force a lot of people to complain and want this channel. I know I'm going to fucking complain because I was pissed.
That's what they're waiting on.
You hit it perfectly, Dubs. It works out for everybody. UFC gets all of this programming. They can sort of have the reins and put whatever they want on Fuel TV. Fuel TV wants the programming. Fox wants the programming because before the UFC, Fuel TV was probably going to get eliminated. It was probably going away. Now you get people like you and people that don't get it. So you're driving all these people to the cable companies to ask for Fuel TV, and so that's great for Fox. They're trying to build the station, and then on the UFC's end, they sort of have carte blanche to do whatever the fuck they want on the station. So I think it's a fucking perfect marriage. They already said since the time they announced it, it was 28 million. There were 28 million households right before they announced the UFC, and it's gone up to 36 million. So they've gained about 25% over a couple months, and they're expecting that to continue to grow. So I think it's great business by Fox, actually.
And it's great for both.
Well, they better get their shit together because they don't want this kind of heat because I'll fucking start going off. We've got 7 people listening to this show, and I will fucking take them down.
Yeah, you're going to take to the streets, man, like the Occupy Wall Street. But I think Ted Turner actually put out a press release saying, until Brian Brown demands this, I'm not making a move. So I think that's really what it's going to come down to. But it's perfect for both, like you both said. It's going to force some people to maybe make some noise, and then Fox can get it on other mediums and other packages. And for the UFC, like Nick had just alluded to, Fuel TV is borderline now going to be a UFC channel, and they're going to be able to put cool and good stuff on there that Spike doesn't have. They get FX as kind of a sister network where they can now put the Ultimate Fighter on there, and they can have some cards. So now there's a third medium between Fuel TV fight nights, FX fight nights, and then you obviously have on Fox the big ones. So it's a three-headed monster for the UFC, and they're able to basically take over a network that they weren't going to, basically have to now pay for and put up their own actual UFC channel, and then they would have to get into packages with Time Warner and Cablevision and all these other people. And, Fox is getting nothing but hits on a channel that they basically had written off for dead anyway. So I think the UFC has just kind of shown they know what they're doing, man. I mean, these guys are an effing machine. It's unbelievable where they've taken the sport in the last 10 years. And I know normally people are over the UFC's nuts, and I'm probably one of them, but, I mean, they just showed that, they really are some of the smartest guys in the room, because this sport was dead, and over the last 10 years, they've now just been the main medium for it to explode on. And for them to get a Fox deal, people would have laughed in their face even 5 years ago. Not just 10 years ago when they couldn't get into major areas. Even 5 years ago, people still would have said, you're very secular, you're very driven by an 18 to 34-year-old demographic. And, these guys, now you're watching football or baseball games, and you're seeing, Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos in the bottom left corner, man. It's unbelievable to see where this sport has gone. So hopefully it just doesn't kind of saturate the market, though. And, when you have success, people tend to hate you, kind of like a John Jones type thing if you're a Nick Frank hater.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's unbelievable to see where the sport has gone, and it's unbelievable to see where this fantasy season has gone, as I just wrapped up my third straight fantasy title for all new listeners who just might be tuning in now. We've had 3 seasons. I am 3-0. I've yet to lose. So that's the end of the season. Anybody have any questions about strategy or anything for the upcoming season?
No, I don't really care what your opinions are on the new season and stuff. Okay. But
all right.
Basically,
that was your only shot. Don't come begging to me week 8 trying to figure out if you're going with the TKO or submission. And
I'm going
Costanza, dude. Don't ask me to crunch any numbers for you. Let's just put it that way.
I'm going Costanza. I'm going to pick opposite, but I do want to put something new in this 4th season. I would like to also say to all you brand new listeners that I know come on every second to our show, in my defense, this is only my 2nd season, but I would like for Dubs and I to basically have something next season that is the equivalent of a Rock and Jock 25-pointer. Or the Magic 8-ball from the Rock and Jock softball
I like
game.
this idea.
We need something like that, my man.
We're going to wrap up this hour. Obviously, Dillashaw won UD, Menjivar won first-round sub, and we'll discuss that when we're coming back. But I have to ask you guys a question. Do you guys like reading blogs online?
I love it.
I hate blogs.
Well, Franco, I thought you wrote blogs sometimes.
Franco, he didn't say blacks. He said blogs.
Well,
thank you for clearing that up.
It's like that Nick Diaz thing. I love it so much that I hate it.
Oh, well, you know what? Maybe you won't hate it if you decide to write your blogs on here, which I know you already do, so I'm just fucking saying this for the hell of it. But anyway, listen to this.
A new era has dawned in blogging. Log on to thexlog.com and experience new standards and quality in commentary and analysis. Powered by RotoExperts.com, thexlog.com brings together the top expert bloggers with all the very best the Internet has to offer. You don't have to search for the most compelling and entertaining posts and writers anymore. They will be at your one central hub for high quality. So join us as a new revolution begins in sports and entertainment, only at thexlog.com. That's THEXLOG.com.
Remember, check out thexlog.com. And Frank, why don't you write a blog up there about your fantasy dominance? Because this way I don't have to actually admit that I'm listening to anything that you're saying, but I can read about it and then use those tips on the side. You know what I'm saying?
We'll see. I'm going away late this week. I'm going to try to get one in there before the end of the week. I haven't really written one in a while, but yeah.
You said you're going to where? Where are you going?
I'm going to the Dominican Republic.
Oh, wow. Very
I'm going
nice.
to,
You're going to go grab some young baseball players and make $1 million off of them?
Yeah, well, there's actually a real-world road rules challenge going on right now, so I'm going down to the paparazzi to interview some of those guys.
Oh, wow.
I saw
no
BT
idea.
going buck wild on his ex-girlfriend last week, and I want to see what the deal is with that.
Dude, I heard the Dominican is just, it's beautiful, man. The Sunshine State. Right next to Montana, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yes, I'm going now. I'm only going for a long weekend. But, Dolan, you're all about that real-world road rules challenge, right?
Best believe, son.
So, listen, you remember, this has nothing to do with MMA, but who gives a shit? You remember Tanya, the chick? She was like a drunk and she had the fake tits?
Oh, believe it, man. A lot of daddy issues with her, too, yeah.
She's been on
I'm not
shows. And then there's also...
Is that the blonde chick?
Yes.
Way to go out on a limb.
All right, I've J.O.'d to her. Go on.
Yes. So, and who's the dude that's running shit this year? Is that Johnny? What's his name?
Oh, the one that's like actually from Jersey.
Yeah, and he used to be sort of doughy. Now he's got like a decent build on him.
Oh yeah. You got Johnny Bananas, and I think my boy Kenny you're alluding to, the Jersey.
Johnny
the
Bananas.
Jersey,
okay.
Yeah.
So Johnny Bananas, and then so Kenny's not on. Have you been watching this year? I've been watching. Kenny's not on it this year. So anyway,
No, he's not. No.
Long story short, the reason he's not on it is that girl Tanya. She's suing Jonathan Murray and Mary Ellen Butem because she's saying that like she passed out drunk on one of the seasons a couple years ago, and like mainly Kenny, but I guess Johnny was involved a little bit, but it was mostly Kenny. I guess penetrated her with a hairbrush while she was like passed out drunk, and so now she's suing the production company and MTV because like they were literally sitting there filming it as it was going on, like letting them. So I read that like a month or two ago, and it just reminded me because now I'm watching the season and neither of those two are in it. So I guess they're allowing for rape on the show.
Yeah, well, Frank, my question for you is, dude, are you now watching the show because you're looking for penetration with foreign objects?
Yes, but I've been disappointed thus far. I was hoping that they were going to bring that kid Adam back and CT was going to get in the business.
Dude, can it be considered rape though, whether it was a penis or it was a third-party object? That if a chick finishes, how can it be rape?
Exactly. Right. Like Bill Brown once said, brush rape doesn't make you a bad person. All right.
No,
it doesn't.
Sure. We've all made our mistakes.
Some of them bigger than others.
Rumor.
Yeah, some of them bigger than others. But dude, I would back in the day when I first started dating my future beautiful bride. She had a Belmar house. I'm sure it was just for the ambiance, not because she was down there looking for dudes or anything. But that summer I ruined her summer going into it, and actually for some reason she has an affinity for pasty white Irishmen and started to like me. So we would be going out and partying and having a good time all summer. And on Labor Day we were at the Osprey in Manasquan, and we were online and we're waiting. Everybody's feeling good, but it's like a line around the block, and Big Kenny and Meat Sack Evan hop out of a van with these just straight gutter trash, piglets, hopping out of this van. And this guy, sunglasses on, and it's nighttime, so right there, automatic douche. But they basically start walking to the front, like they're going to be able just to go right in because they got it like that. And basically these dudes just got paraded with basically like beer and cups and people just screaming at them to get to the back of the fucking line. And they just got shamed all the way to the back of the line, and then everybody was just proceeded to tool on them at the rest of the night whenever they saw them in there. It was amazing. I didn't know he was that cool though, man. He did have a hairdryer with him. Very interesting.
I can't believe he was hanging out with Doughboy on the outside.
Oh, it was amazing, man. Yeah, Evan was walking around like he was just, like, teed up. Like, I was like, oh, man, maybe he's just wearing a shirt that's too small. I was like, no, it's actually a curtain. And that beefy fuck is just walking around wearing a curtain like he's Kunta Kinte.
Well, boys, Franco, are you ready to start another fantasy season of dominance?
I am, and you know what? These 7 fights on this card. I'm going to be on vacation next week, so I'm not going to see the card. I'm not going to be on the show next week, most likely. But this is a pretty good card. I think there were. I think a lot of the fights were pretty close. I don't think there's a lot of clear-cut favorites. So I think we're probably all going to have some different picks, and
I agree.
Probably I see one of us probably jumping out to a pretty substantial lead, and I think it's fairly obvious who that's going to be.
But obviously,
I'll just leave
as
it
we
at
all learned from last season, no lead is safe, because I almost did pull it off, Franco, after you led. I was
a little bit
through the season.
I was nervous, and the 10th event was really my weakest event, but luckily, event 9 went so well for me. But I wasn't feeling good. I'll tell you what. I was sitting here, I was like Galileo, writing equations on the chalkboard, figuring out how I was going to win this.
Beautiful mind over here.
Yeah, that's what I get for pulling a Judas on Stefan Struve. But anyway, Saturday marks UFC's return to Japan. It's UFC 144 at the Saitama Super Arena in Tokyo. And, of course, the main event pits Frankie the Answer Edgar against Benson Smooth Henderson. And because I'm tired of hearing Franco's voice, I want to hear what Dolo thinks of this first. Dolo, who you got here?
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing card. I'm even more excited that Franco's going to miss it, but
yeah,
I think they really did a great job as far as putting Frankie and Benson Henderson in the forefront. Pride had a good lightweight division, and the Japanese fans, they're very different than the American fans. Meaning that they're not just fat slob idiots like myself who are spilling beer and just screaming "No!" They sit there. They sit there like I'm like that Yankee fan, man. I'm a diehard Yankee fan, but Yankee fans are the dumbest assholes in the world. Like it'll be a pop fly behind home plate, and everybody's like, "Wow!" Like it's going out every single time. And that's basically what the American fan is in MMA. But the Japanese fan, it's like a library in there. They sit there and they respect the ground game, and this is going to be a great great fight on all levels. Both of these guys, Frankie Edgar and Benson Henderson, can really do it all. They really obviously both have good wrestling backgrounds and strong bases. They definitely mix it up well and can bring it to the ground as well. Frankie Edgar coming off of just the most, in my opinion, the most amazing comeback that I've ever seen against Gray Maynard. Looked like a mirror image of their second fight where he got clipped in the first round and weathered the storm. And Gray is so huge at 155, and Frankie could legitimately easily make 145. He fights obviously at 155, cuts no weight to get there. Frankie, what's most impressive for me is obviously, he was a good college wrestler, has a good base, but this kid has worked his hands and his angles to where he's become one of the most technical boxers in MMA and one of the most technical strikers. I mean, we saw it against BJ. We saw it against Gray Maynard. He just absolutely works his angles. He comes in, throws sick combinations. He'll feint the shot and then basically throw a right hook or what have you, and he pops you, he hits you, and then he's gone. So I'm really looking forward to this fight because, Benson Henderson is a guy who just has cardio for days. He can take a punch. He pretty much ruled the WEC at 155 and, left without the belt when the UFC had folded them under, mainly because of just an insane kick from Anthony Pettis. But as impressive as the Pettis kick was, it was just really cool. What was more impressive was that Henderson didn't go out. I mean, he basically got hit with a kick that was catapulted off of a cage, as if a kick wasn't hard enough. So I don't think Frankie's going to catch Henderson here and put him out like he put Gray out. But, I mean, Gray had never been put out like that either. But I just don't think that's Frankie's game. I think Frankie fully respects Benson Henderson and knows what he's in for. I know he's extremely excited just to fight a new opponent, Frankie is. He was saying on the interview with the Fuel TV card that, his last 4 fights have been against 2 guys. He fought BJ and won a decision and then handled BJ and then, had a draw with Gray and then finished Gray. So I think he's rejuvenated. He knows what he's got going forward. Both of these guys, really respect the hell out of each other. Dana White has tagged Frankie Edgar as the number 2 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and whether you agree with it or not, he's certainly in the top 4. Benson Henderson is maybe the biggest challenge for Frankie Edgar. Came into the UFC and has done nothing but handle his business. He beat Jimmy Miller, who, is tough as nails, and, he may have had mono, he may have had a staph infection, we don't know, but he came out, made a statement there, and then he proceeded to just absolutely handle, an unbelievably game and another cardio freak in Clay Guida. So I think we are going to be the true winners here for this fight. The card top to bottom is stacked, and this is the best fight on there, so I'm really excited. I'm going to pick with my heart here. I have Frankie via decision. I'm a big Henderson fan, but, Frankie's probably my favorite fighter just for the heart he's shown and obviously being from Jersey. I don't think this guy has a button. Gray Maynard said it. I don't think Frankie Edgar has a button to put him out. So, although I think, Henderson, is definitely strong. He's a big 55er. I don't think he'll be trying to finish Frankie. I think he's a smart fighter. I just think Frankie has the camp around him, the game plan, and the ability to execute it. And I think Frankie's going to have the strap for a while. I have Frankie via decision.
All right.
Silence the crowd. I love it. Analysis done. You guys got nothing.
A little bit of breaking news. 2012 WWE Hall of Fame inductee was just announced. It was Big Ron Simmons. So, Dubs, get your Farouk mask out and ready to go.
All right. So basically, I agree with Dolan. This is a good fight to center the card around.
I'm back, boys.
This would be a great fight to sort of. What's that?
No, I said I'm back, boys. Go on, Franco. I don't know what happened. Technical.
Who do you know you were
gone? Great fight to sort of center around, especially in Japan. They understand the technique and maybe a little bit more intelligent than the United States fans who tend to just be bloodthirsty and chanting for the USA anytime a foreigner's in the ring.
I saw Jim Duggan out there.
Yeah. But like you said, Frankie Edgar is finally going to be able to fight somebody different. His last 4 fights were against BJ and Gray Maynard. He's unbeaten in his last 7 fights. He does have some big wins throughout his career. Jim Miller, Tyson Griffin, Sean Churk, BJ, and Maynard. Obviously, he's a local guy from Jersey. The difference that I've seen with Frankie over the last couple fights is just his footwork and his boxing. I mean, from the BJ fights where he basically outboxed him when people thought that BJ was the best boxer in MMA, to the Gray Maynard fights where he was able to sort of weather the early storms and use timing, use his footwork, use his speed. The thing about Frankie is that he's not the best boxer in the world and he's not the best wrestler in the world, but he has the ability to sort of mesh those two things together so effectively that it makes the other discipline, look even better than it is. His transitions are really smooth. It's hard to get a hold of him and take him to the ground. Just a really impressive guy who seems to frustrate his opponents. But, Henderson, I think legitimately, right now, as we sit today, I think these are the 2 best lightweights in the world. Henderson sort of has had a fast rise here from, the really close loss to Anthony Pettis. And, he's 3-0 in the UFC. He really took it to Jim Miller and Clay Guida, the 2 guys who have been, top 3 and top 5 in the world over the last couple of years. I think that Ben Henderson has all the tools to take the belt from Frankie. I think the fight's going to go to the distance, and I think really that the difference in the fight is going to be the boxing of Frankie Edgar. Both guys have great wrestling and really great cardio. I think it's going the distance, and I think that Henderson's going to have his share of moments in the fight, but I think when it's all said and done, Frank Edgar's going to win a really close decision. So I have Edgar decision.
I definitely think that's a good pick, Franco. Like I said, I had technical shit going on. Well, who'd Dolo pick? I didn't hear the end of what he had to say.
He had the same thing, Edgar decision.
Really? Damn. All right, well, I got an Edgar decision as well. I agree with a lot of things you guys said. Like you guys pointed out, Frankie's the best boxer I think there is in MMA. He's an incredible fighter. He's got heart, as he proved in his last fight. Henderson definitely does pose a lot of threats. He's a very big lightweight. As we see, he hasn't been. One of his losses was he got subbed out early in his career. He got choked out, but since then we've seen this ridiculous submission defense. I don't think Frankie's going to be able to finish him by sub. And I would have liked to have had balls and picked Frankie by knocking him out, but he's never been knocked out. And if Pettis could have knocked him out with that kick, that's going to be a really tough thing to pull off. So I picked Frankie Edgar by unanimous decision as well. So I think it's going to be a great fight as well, and we're definitely going to see a great show on Saturday night. Everybody out there.
Real quick, before you go into the next fight, I just love that you were upset that you were going to pick the same fight as me and Nick, when not only do we have 6 other fights left on this card, we have 9 other events. And you're like, fuck, it's the first fight of the season. It's over.
Yeah, I guess I was a little premature, but I was hoping that maybe you guys were really in love with Benson Henderson, and we'd have some difference of opinion with the main event, but I guess that is a little fucking stupid.
Like, if he picks Henderson and we pick Frankie wins, like, he's done. He might as well just not pick anymore. I love your commitment to your hatred for us. Respect.
Well, all right, that's a very good point, Michael. Everybody out there, all you 5 listeners, remember, if you want to get involved in the conversation, the number is, hold on a second, 347-326-9741. Probably should have said that when we came back from break, but I forgot. All right, the next fight pits Rampage Jackson versus Ryan the Masturbator. Franco, who you got in this one?
This is sort of an interesting fight. Both guys are obviously in really different parts of their career. Rampage 32-9 with 14 knockouts, 33 years old, so getting up there in age. 33 doesn't sound that old, but he's got a lot of mileage on that body. He's got a lot of big fights. Been fighting for a while. He's won 7 out of his 10 fights in the UFC. Won 2 of his last 3. Looked okay against John Jones. Seemed a bit tentative, but a lot of people looked tentative against John Jones. He looked like his conditioning was in place, where that's something that's sort of been questioned. So he looked like he trained hard for that fight and, maybe underestimated John Jones a little bit and didn't look great in the fight, but didn't look terrible. That was his last outing. He's obviously got big power in both of his hands, which is, he actually tends to lean on that power and really hasn't evolved the rest of his game as much as maybe he should have. But, regardless, that's just a matter of opinion. He hasn't knocked anybody out since Vanderlei Silva in December of 2008. So he's got this reputation as this big knockout puncher and knockout artist, but, it's been, 2.5 years since he knocked anybody out, and that was Vanderlei, who a lot of people have knocked out recently. Ryan Bader's a must-win fight for Ryan Bader, 13-2. Lost 2 of his last 3, got dominated, obviously, by John Jones, and I think he just kind of got caught off guard in the Tito Ortiz fight. I think it's just inexperienced. Tito popped him with a good shot, and I think he thought he was going to just walk through Tito Ortiz, and that really didn't happen. It seems like he struggles in fights where he's not able to bully the other person, overpower the other person, and sort of have his way. I think when he's faced with a little adversity, he seems to he folded a little bit. As far as the pick goes, I think that if they stand and bang, there's no doubt that I think Rampage is going to get the better of him and knock him out. I think in this point in his career, that's really what Rampage is looking to do. I think he's looking to stand there and trade punches with you. I think that Ryan Bader is going to come in with a smart game plan. He's going to use his wrestling and try to avoid Rampage's power. I don't think that Rampage is going to train hard for this fight. I think he got back to that title fight. He didn't get the title. I don't think he has any aspirations of building his way back up for another title fight. He's infamous that he doesn't like training. I think he's going to come in here and hope that Ryan Bader trades punches with him and he gets a big knockout in front of his fans in Japan. But this fight's way too big for Ryan Bader to come in with a stupid game plan like that. He's going to come in. He's going to fight smart. I think it's probably going to wind up being a boring fight, but I'm going to take actually Ryan Bader by decision.
Wow, I have to agree with a lot of things you said, Franco. But obviously, Quentin has never lost back-to-back fights, so that's a big thing going in here. But I think you're right. With him being, towards the ending stretch of his career, he's probably not going to train as hard, which he has had problems with that in the past. Ryan Bader, I think, definitely learned a lesson with Tito Ortiz, because I also think you're right in that sense that I think he took him very lightly. Figured it's Tito Ortiz, what the hell do I have to worry about? Figured he was going to walk through him. I mean, it was a big joke everywhere on all message boards and, all that kind of shit. Everybody making fun of the fact that Ryan Bader, including, I think we all said it too, that Ryan Bader was going to retire Tito Ortiz. So I think he learned a big lesson from there. I think he's going to come in highly motivated, and he's definitely going to use his wrestling, but I'm going to go in a different with a different thing here. I think Ryan Bader's actually going to knock Rampage out in the second round. I think he's going to frustrate him. Yeah. I think he's going to keep it on the feet. He's going to anytime they do lock up, I think he's going to be able to get the better of the exchanges. Obviously, if it hits the mat, Bader has the huge advantage there. But Bader likes to swing. He's got heavy hands. Rampage has been knocked out before. Bader never has. He has been hit solid and hit really good in his career by a different number of dudes. And I think he's going to be able to weather the storm. Obviously, Rampage can knock anybody out with a single shot, but if it isn't that shot, Bader is going to be able to absorb it if he has to, and he's going to be able to trade. And Rampage has been knocked out violently in his career. So I think Bader is going to step up and he's going to knock out Rampage in the second round.
Very aggressive, Dubs.
I know it is.
I mean, I like it.
Tricky
anything can happen, man. Obviously, I think the Bader-Tito fight is just the true, template that anything can happen. I am agreeing with Nick as far as the outcome related to, Bader is going to win by decision. And I'm basically putting it based on that Bader is going to execute the game plan and not move away from it, right? I mean, Rampage begged his way onto this card because he's a big deal in Japan. He's got a ton of fighters there. He's got a ton of fights there and just a huge amount of fans, and it just makes sense for the UFC to put him on there. I think, Bader does need this fight. I don't know if he would be done after this, but he very well could be. I mean, he knocked out Jason Brills in the first round in November, BFD, but it's also, at that point, his neck was on the chopping block, so I don't think he's that far away from it. I don't think Brills gets him that far away from, being put out of the UFC. Rampage has never been the most versatile fighter, but I just feel like more and more he's gotten away from even remotely training anything else. He's definitely going in there and just banking on Bader trading hands. I think Bader is, one, smart enough not to, and two, I think he's learned his lesson. Bader fell into the classic trap that we've seen with guys like Josh Koscheck and a few others, kind of the antithesis of Frankie Edgar, to where Bader came in as a highly touted wrestler. It's what got him, kind of onto the season of The Ultimate Fighter, and then he just straight was knocking dudes out on The Ultimate Fighter and just went 5-0 out the gate like a rocket and continued to knock guys out. I just think he fell in love with that right hand. He probably stopped training wrestling as much because he knows he has the base, and when guys have a discipline that gets them there that isn't jiu-jitsu, I feel like they really, wrestlers have such an inferiority complex about their striking that they just absolutely abandon what gets them there. And then if they have some success, and don't get me wrong, Bader is extremely heavy-handed and has a big overhand right, but Rampage Jackson is not Tito Ortiz. I mean, he will get fucking buried if he stands there and trades. I think he's going to trade in the beginning because he doesn't have a choice. He can't just come running out and, shoot out the gate. I think Rampage will be looking for that and maybe throw a knee. But I think Bader executes his game plan. I don't think he'll be remotely interested in trading with Rampage. I think he's smart enough to, even if he starts kind of getting in a mix with Rampage, to not just kind of have, a bravado complex and stand in there and bang like he's got to prove anything. Rampage has made enough money, and he can go do other shit. Bader can't. This has to work for Bader. He's too young. And, I mean, before the John Jones fight, Bader was touted, whether it was too early or not, as a top 5, or I should say top 7, 205-pounder. And he did clam up against John Jones. He looked like he didn't even know he had a fight that night. But I really think he's woken up somewhat. I do see Bader pretty much just taking him down. He's going to use his wrestling to kind of, get good position. I think he's going to be happy to lay on Rampage and just get out of there with the victory. I think next fight it's probably going to be a pretty boring fight unless Rampage catches him, or if Bader catches him, don't get it twisted. Bader can catch him, he can put him out, but I just don't see it playing out that way. Rampage does have a good enough chin that he's got a propensity for knees. Rampage, not necessarily the strikes, and I don't see Bader throwing knees unless it's in the sack with CB. So I got my boy Bader winning via decision.
Well, no, I definitely have to agree with you there, dude. It is a safer pick. I'm not saying that I don't really feel that it might go that way. I just think that Bader is probably going to catch him. That's all I'm saying. But, either way, obviously we're all in agreement. We think Bader's going to do what he needs to do.
I picked that fight, too, thinking that both you shitheads were going to take Rampage, and I was going to be...
I thought Dubs was going to take Rampage, to be honest.
Why, because he's retarded?
Yeah, and he's a ginger.
Well, I definitely got that going against me.
We got a quick pick on somebody mentioned your homeboy CB Dalloway just got announced that he's fighting Mayhem Miller coming up.
You better believe it.
Pound him out.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. What do you think? You think Mayhem Miller is going to feel the wrath of the pound him out?
I mean, the game plan, no doubt, is going to be take him down, pound him out.
That's what we do.
I don't think. No, I think. I don't know. Actually, I haven't put any thought into that fight. But real quick, I'd take Mayhem.
Okay. Do you think Mayhem will train in a swimming pool? So when he fights in the octagon and he's throwing like he's in a swimming pool, it'll be more natural.
Oh man, that's rough, dude. That's rough.
He's the only guy who could beat him is Pillow Hands. That's what Pillow Hand Shields. It's the only one that he can take care of is Mayhem Miller.
Oh, come on. Jesus Christ. Listen, first off, I picked Mayhem in that fight, too. But, yeah, I was actually going to bring that fight up later, too, Franco, so I'm glad you brought it up. I just think Mayhem had a bad showing. He had, a year and a half or a longer layoff.
He only had a year and a half to train. You don't have enough time.
Come on, man. He looked like shit. Let's not get it twisted. He looked like utter fucking garbage, but he definitely could throw better than that.
Bisbing isn't his sister, and he wasn't able to choke him out at the party. Who didn't drive home like a little p-boy.
All right. Well, I don't want to sit there and get on another guy's bandwagon where you guys are going to accuse me of wanting to suck on his nuts or something like that. So, I just think Miller had such a long layoff. He gassed so quick. I mean, you saw how quickly he gassed. Michael, how was he supposed to fucking throw a punch or kicks or anything? The guy does train Muay Thai regularly. I think he could throw better than that.
I don't know, man. Didn't look like it.
Well, we'll find out when he takes that CB Dalloway, right? Because CB Dalloway ain't going to be pounding nobody out.
Oh, my God, dude. I got CB Dalloway first round skull fuck.
Really?
Pound him out. And then he'll pound him out for good measure.
All right. Well, I can't wait for what card is that going to be on, Franco?
I just read it really quickly. I don't really know, to be honest with you.
I think do a line with Mayhem Miller's training and his contract to be 2017. And he feels like he'll be ready. Because he trains now.
Well, all right. I guess that's we'll have to find out about that.
Moving on, douchebag.
Right. Well, moving on to the next fight. We pits Mark the Super Samoan Hunt versus Chick Congo. Franco, I think I see how this is going, but how do you see it going?
This is. I like these kind of fights when they make striker versus striker. Both guys kickboxers. Mark Hunt's an interesting story. His overall MMA record 7-7, but he is 2-1 since they brought him over to the UFC. He's a guy where Dana purchased his. They had to pay him basically for his Pride contract because of whatever the takeover was, the stipulations of the contract. But Mark Hunt didn't have to fight. He was going to get paid either way, and he said to Dana, "Listen, I want to fight. So I want to show you what I can do. You have to pay me anyway, but let me fight." And I think, the idea was to give him a fight or two and just, because they had, he was accessible to them and he was going to lose. But, he's been 2-1. He looked good against Ben Rothwell's last time out. Before his 2-1 stint in UFC, he had lost 6 straight fights. So I guess, a lot of people had sort of written this guy off, he's just a straight kickboxer. But if you look at the guys that he lost to Josh Barnett, Fedor Emelianenko, Alistar Overeem, Melvin Manhoff, Gerhard Mousasi. So he was fighting, top 5 guys, and he wasn't a top 5 fighter. So I don't think he's as good as people thought he was early in his career or as bad as people thought he was in the middle of his career, but he's a formidable heavyweight. Check Congo, 17-6. This is going to be his 15th fight in the UFC. He's 9-4-1. 3-1 over his last 4. He's coming off of wins off of a couple of young heavyweights, Pat Barry, Matt Mitrione. His last 2 losses were to Cain Velasquez and Frank Mir. Both guys at that point were in the top 5. So I think Congo is probably a fringe top 10 heavyweight. Don't think he's ever going to be top 5. But as far as this fight go, I think that Mark Hunt has shown dramatic improvements over the last 2 fights. But I just don't think it's going to be enough to overcome Czech Congo. I think Congo's better everywhere, and I think he's going to win a decision. So I got Czech Congo decision.
Wow. I absolutely agree with a lot of things you said. Obviously, you brought up the 5-fight losing streak that Hunt went on. Czech Congo definitely is better at every facet of the game here. you know, a lot of respect to Mark Hunt, like you pointed out. He's not a top 5 fighter. He was fighting top-level competition. It's because, you know, he's definitely got a warrior spirit. He's not going to say no. He'll fight anybody, and you got to respect that about the guy. But you know, this is probably his last fight. Obviously, he was a big star in Japan. Even when he started losing, they really liked the guy. They definitely came out to see him. So, you know, I'm sure this is going to be Mark Hunt's last fight. They're bringing him over there just to give the fans something to watch. But I don't think it's going to end very well for him. He's a durable dude, but he has been knocked out before, and I think Congo is going to really put it on him, and I think he's going to knock him out in the second round.
I think all the analysis is pretty fair and spot on, and probably not too daring, and I'm definitely in the pocket there with you guys. To piggyback off of what Frank said, I mean, the 7-7 record of Mark Hunt is extremely deceiving. Based off of his K1 success and prowess, he was, when he went over to the MMA game, he was just thrusted into elite level competition in a world that he was completely unfamiliar with, and he has a lot of fans in Japan, both from his Pride days and his K1 days. So I think he's gotten better as far as MMA is concerned, but I just think Czech Congo is way too big, and he, you know, Congo is a kickboxer himself, albeit maybe not with the success of Mark Hunt, but he certainly has the skill set to match where Mark Hunt is right now. You know, Mark Hunt, although he lost to all those tough guys, I mean, he beat Crow Cop, he beat Vanderlei Silva. This is a guy who's done nothing but fight top-level competition. I mean, Czech Congo, he's been in the UFC a long time, man. I just feel like he's always been here. He's 8-4-1 in the UFC, so he's certainly, you know, he's been here before. He knows, you know, what to expect in any fight. He's definitely on that fringe. I feel like he's a top 10 heavyweight, but I feel like when he gets to that, you know, maybe 7th or 5th guy, you know, he has some trouble with him, but he's never been really dominated in a fight. Cain Velasquez, you know, won via decision, and he looked very impressive in that decision. But Congo, before Dos Santos, was the only guy to even remotely hurt Cain Velasquez and almost put him out. And that was when people basically were saying that Cain Velasquez was unbeatable. They were putting him, you know, with the John Jones hype train before John Jones, you know, really was getting that kind of hype. So I think Congo is definitely doing one final push. Congo's up there in age. I think he's, I don't know if one of you said it, but I mean, he's definitely in his mid-30s. So
34, 35.
He's 30, yeah, so he's pretty much on his final push. I think he wins this fight, and then after that, I think he's probably going to get a crack at a top 7, top 5 heavyweight. We'll see what happens from there. I mean, you know, fights at a Wolf Slayer, always comes to fight, extremely game fighter. I think Mark Hunt, you know, you'd borderline have to hit him with a 2x4 to put him out. But, you know, I think Congo is really just going to work his hands and not, you know, stay within the power range of Mark Hunt's big kick or punches. So I have Congo pretty much happily taking a decision win home.
Yeah, that's probably the safer pick. I just, you know, I will actually be rooting for Mark Hunt. Not that I hate Czech Congo or anything. I just think it would be a nice way to go out, because I definitely think this is his last fight. But I think the Chocolate Adonis is definitely going to take care of business in there. But moving on to the next fight of the night, which is one that I would like to talk about.
Look at him, he's getting flustered. He's getting flustered, bro.
I know. I'm getting choked up here a little bit, you know, because I know this is going to end really well on Saturday night. But obviously it pits Yoshihiro Sexyama Akiyama, but who gives a shit about that guy? Obviously, he's going to be fighting Jake Shields. I'm going to let you two guys go first, starting with Franco, because I will save the best for last, obviously. So, Franco, how do you see this one going?
Well, you know, I think Jake Shields obviously has had a really solid career. Had that
certainly
big 15-fight win. Go ahead.
No, so it sounds like you're writing his eulogy. I love it.
He had that nice 14-fight winning streak. He has lost 2 straight to St. Pierre and Ellenberger, probably, you know, 2 of probably the top 4 welterweights. You know, I think this is a fight they get to Shields because, you know, they need to get him a win. Akiyama has struggled at 185. He's 0-3 in his last 3 fights. He's 1-3 in the UFC. And his only win was against Alan Belcher in a fight that many people thought that Belcher actually won that fight. So, you know, in essence, Akiyama's 0-4 in the UFC.
Yeah.
Should be at 170 rather than 185. So I think it's a smart move by him going down to 170. He's a big name in Japan from his judo career and his early MMA career. He's one of the bigger MMA names over in Japan, so they got to get him on this card. And they got to get Shields to win. I think that this guy's sort of tailor-made for Jake Shields. And as much as we make fun of him, I mean, the guy's got wins over Yushin Okami, Carlos Condit, Mike Pyle, Paul Daly, Robbie Lawler, Mayhem Miller, Dan Henderson, the controversial win over Campman. So he's got a lot of skill. Akiyama's a bit of a brawler. He tends to get into that style. He's a great judo practitioner. He's got a couple big wins, Melvin Manhoff, Dennis Kang, and Alan Belcher. Nothing like Jake Shields. He's got 3 losses in a row to Lieben Bisping and Vitor Belfort. I think this is probably going to be Akiyama's last fight in the UFC. I really don't think he belongs in the UFC. I think he's, the level below that. I think that Akiyama is really underrated on the ground. He's got a pretty decent ground game. But, I think that Shields is really going to be able to get him on the mat and sort of blanket him. And I don't think Shields has to get too aggressive here. I think he's going to be able to control him. And, we know how Jake Shields likes to sort of fight safely. So I'm going to take Jake Shields by decision.
I think Dubs can speak to how much Shields likes to control young men while on the ground, preferably without Vaseline. This really was just yet another aces situation for the UFC. The only reason Akiyama is still in the UFC is because his card was on the horizon. He's like Nick said, a huge star in Japan, and just a must-have on this card, like we've seen with Rampage and Mark Hunt, and now Akiyama. These are just guys that there was no way they were not going to have him on the card. The only other person I was thinking maybe would be on the card, but obviously I think he just didn't have time to heal with Shogun, just being another stud, that the fans really love over there. Nick really hit the whole gamut. I mean, Akiyama 1-3 in the UFC. He had Lieben pretty much won. It was just they beat via decision, but he got caught in the last minute, and I mean, Lieben had fought I think 16 days prior, so there's just no excuses there. We definitely kill, Nick and I kill Shields, just, the combination of, I think he's a little soft, but more so just for, our allegiance and unification and our hatred for Dubs. The guy is definitely, a really, really good fighter. He hasn't had, the success he was hoping and I think expecting, for his career in the UFC. I definitely think he lost that fight to Campman. I think, the only way he was going to be able to win that fight, what was pretty apparent, was if it went to a decision, because, I mean, he was borderline, getting talked off the ledge after the second round in that fight from just being done. I know he had a hard weight cut, but, I think he's going to be able to take the fight to the ground where he wasn't able to do that in his last 2 fights. I mean, the GSP fight, GSP's wrestling was way too strong, and Shields' hands were way too soft. And I think obviously the Ellenberger fight, he got his button pushed, he got put out. So I think this is the perfect fight and the perfect time for Shields. He'll go over there, he'll steal a win, he'll beat Akiyama. Akiyama will be out of the UFC. UFC will make their money off of it, and then Pillow Hands will probably go get throat jobbed by somebody else. But I have Jakey Poo via second round submission.
Listen, first off, before I even go into this, I want to let you guys know this. I don't know if you guys went out and got UFC Undisputed 3, but I set up a little tournament in that, and I want you to know that Jake Shields is currently holding the welterweight title.
He currently won the tournament?
Yeah, he won the tournament, okay? And I might have been controlling him, but that's besides the point, okay? Jake Shields is a legit contender at welterweight. And, yeah, he's had a couple of bumps on the road. I still think the Ellenberger stoppage was a little quick. If Dan Henderson couldn't knock him out, Ellenberger certainly didn't, but whatever.
Hey, Dubs, when you did that tournament, not only were you Shields, did you do it on 2-player, and then you just left the other controller on the ground, so you were able just to seriously just work him until he got his first knockout victory? Kudos, my man.
Well, he did actually knock out John Fitch, believe it or not, in the third round, because he beat him up so much on the ground with his pillow hands that he wore him down so much he scored a sweet head kick.
He smothered him with his pillow hands.
Yeah, he certainly did. But it was like 4:58 in the third. He won, so whatever.
How unbelievable is that game, Dubs? I got it today. It's fucking amazing.
Did you get it?
Yeah,
I wasn't going to get it. I was on the fence because I was like, how much better could it be?
Awesome,
and then I said, fuck it.
Is it the same controls and everything?
It is, Nick, but you know what?
For the most part.
Every evolution of the game has gotten better, and this will help me out when I fight your ridiculously gay ass. The ground game it's awesome. Like, it's so much more intuitive, and it's very easy to get into a submission. And then the way they have it, they have an octagon shape that comes on, and then there's like a first player and a second player kind of logo, and you have to chase that other person's logo, and you have to like cover it. So, you know what I mean? But then you can keep moving directions. So the longer you're able to cover that, then you can actually sink in the submission. And if you don't, the guy can try to reverse it or whatever. But and the strikes are more realistic. It's not dude just like hitting X and throwing ridiculous shit. Like it actually feels like people. The game's insane.
And dudes counter really. The dudes counter better in this game than they ever have.
And then you got the whole pride thing, and they got like foot stomps on the head and all that shit. And they got a lot of pride guys. They got Bob Sapp. They have a ton of guys over in pride that just Don Fry, all of them. It's sick, dude.
Yeah, it's fucking. I was definitely pleased that I decided because I pre-ordered it a while ago and then I was just gonna fucking cancel it because I got that demo and I really didn't like it. But I'm glad I changed my mind.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dubs. You can finish with your Jake Shields, provocation.
That's right. Let me get back to that. Obviously, as I stated before, I definitely think Jake Shields is going to win this. You guys pointed out a lot of great stuff. Jake Shields is on a 2-fight losing streak. Never happened before in his career. Akiyama's on a 3-fight streak, and you could say that's never happened to him before, but I agree with you guys. I don't think he belongs in the UFC. He should have been fighting at 170 this whole time, but he likes to bang. As we stated, Jake Shields does have a pretty durable chin regardless of what happened in that Ellenberger fight. He's been rocked before, survived it, and won fights. I don't think Akiyama's got the power to put him out. And if it hits the ground, Akiyama is a judo guy, but usually jiu-jitsu beats judo on the ground. And Jake Shields is a very high-level jiu-jitsu practitioner. And I think not only is Shields going to get back in the win column, but I think he's going to win this fight pretty impressively. And he's going to get a win by submission in the first round. Now, you can mock me all you want for that pick right now before we move on to the next fight if you want.
No, I picked him second round, dude, so I could respect it, but only in this fight. I'll just mock you perpetually after.
Oh, okay. I thought you picked decision. I thought you both picked decision. That's why
I had Shields second round sub.
Oh, see, I got to listen better. I got to listen. I was literally listening to you, waiting for you to stop so I could talk, and I got to stop doing it. I got to actually listen.
Like every good listener.
Yeah, I do that a lot. I used to do that a lot in my relationships. It's just that my fiance has a lot more better propensity to just basically, smack me in the head or just do what she wants anyway. It's working out well for the both of us.
Not that I've been in a relationship in quite some time. That's all I ever do in my relationships, and that's why they just never work out because they know I don't listen one bit. I go, yeah, sure, I got you.
I don't know. She was complaining. I never really paid attention when she was talking. I don't know.
Yeah, fuck that. All right, moving on. The next fight pits Yushin Thunder Okami versus Tim the Barbarian Botch. And, I think this is a pretty easy fight to call. What do you think, Dolan?
God, what a fucking great card, dude. The more I look at this, it's just like, holy shit. Not only is it 7 fights, that's when I got to, this was my oh shit point when I was picking my fights. Like, when I saw this, that Okami was on this card, it was just like, it blew my mind that this card is one card. It's so awesome. Okami's coming off of a pretty demoralizing loss to Anderson Silva, but, take a number. He was the only guy, walking the planet to have beaten Anderson Silva in recent history, albeit from, a BS, basically illegal strike. But, Anderson handled him. Okami's been extremely impressive in the UFC. He's 10-3. His only losses are to Rich Franklin, Anderson Silva, and Chael Sonnen, who he immediately after his loss to Chael went and started training with him. So, a guy who definitely likes to learn from his mistakes and perpetually grow. He's beaten Nate Marquardt, Mark Munoz, R.I.P. Evan Tanner, Alan Belcher. So he's certainly done nothing but fight elite-level competition. I think he's really, he's looking to just get a win here and get back on track. Tim Bosch, he's looking to pretty much leapfrog a bunch of guys and, I think try to catch Yushin Okami. Bosch is heavy-handed. He's on a 2-fight win streak. I think he's going to hope to finish Okami via strikes, and Anderson Silva is the only guy to ever do that to Okami. So I don't see, Okami basically going on a string here where he's going to just start getting knocked out like Vanderlei, with an accumulation of punches. Bosch 6 wins via strikes and 5 submissions, so he's certainly a well-rounded fighter. But Okami's a black belt in judo, and he's just a really smart fighter. I have Okami via decision.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. No disrespect to Boch. I mean, Boch is a tough fighter. He's a tough out for anybody. He definitely comes to fight, but I agree with you. I think he's going to be trying to knock Okami out. And again, to agree with Dolo again, to keep agreeing with you, Silva's the only one who's done it. It's not an easy thing to do. Okami is definitely, I think, the better fighter out of the two, but Boch definitely surprised me in the past and definitely taken victories from guys that I had a chance against. So, anything can happen. It's a fight, but I really do think Thunder Okami is going to get the win via decision.
Well, there's a lot of agreeing going on during the show.
Too much
I don't really like
right?
it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to disagree with you two,
Nice.
J-Boss. And
Nice.
You basically both said everything you need to say about Okami. I'm not going to repeat the same shit. As far as Boch goes, I mean, he's 2-0 since dropping down to 185. The guy was a 205-pounder. He fought Phil Davis and sort of got, muscled in that fight. Phil Davis wound up submitting him, and he's dropped down ever since that fight. And he looked really good at 185. He looks a lot leaner. These two guys are probably two of the stronger middleweights. Everybody always says how strong Okami is. It's just the same situation. I think where Okami's been in the UFC for a long time. He's fought the top guys, and it took him forever to get that title shot, and he built up. And it wasn't always the most fan-friendly fighter, and he finally gets the title shot. And just a really disappointing performance in Brazil when he fought Anderson Silva. So I think he's probably a bit deflated. Tim Boch is a guy who is looking to really still make a splash in this division. Like Dolan said, if he could put Okami's head on the wall, he jumps a lot of guys in the middleweight division and becomes, a fight or two away from the title. So I just think Tim Boch has much more to gain from this fight than Yushin Okami does. Okami maybe takes him a bit lightly, and I think Boch is probably a 3 or 4 to 1 underdog, which he should be. But I'm going to go ahead and take Tim Boch decision.
You think he takes him lightly, Nick? I just think Okami's been around long enough that he just doesn't seem like that type of guy. I mean, I could be dead wrong, but I don't know. He just doesn't seem like a type of guy. He seems like a kind of consummate professional, Okami.
It seems like the sucker bet, like they're setting up Okami to get Okami, like you said, he's fought Nate Marquardt, Rich Franklin, Chael Sonnen, Mark Munoz, Anderson Silva. A lot of people don't put Tim Boch on that same level. He's got the fight in Japan. I'm not saying he's going to take him lightly, but it's a possibility. I really just think it comes down to I think Boch is a lot hungrier right now, and
he can just get caught.
I think he's underrated. I think he's good, and I think he's dangerous at 185. I mean, listen, Devin's not going to shock me if Okami goes out there and beats him. It's what he's supposed to do, but I'm just going to take Boch because I think he's got a good shot.
Yeah, it's a contrasting style. Okami's looking to go in and pretty much not really finish people, and, Boch's shot is to finish him. So it's a matter of if he's able to push that button, because if he's not, it's probably going to be, Boch looking at the lights in the dome that night, because Okami's happy just to lay on guys and kind of beat them up a little bit. So, it's going to be one or the other.
No, it's definitely not going to be a shocker. If Boch pulls it off, like I said, he's definitely shocked me before. I'm not trying to disrespect the guy. I just think, Okami needs to win and just to stay relevant. But, obviously, like Nick said, Boch definitely has way more to gain from it. So if he pulls it off, I'll be impressed yet again and probably won't pick against him next time. But moving on to the next fight, pits Hatsu Hioki versus Bartemis Palazuski. I went back and forth a little bit with this one, but I want to hear what Franco's got to say about it.
Yeah, I was in the same boat as you, Dubs. I think this was a close fight. Neither of these guys are really huge names. Hioki's, both guys are veterans. Hioki 25-4-2, 10 submission wins. He's 1-0 in the UFC. Been fighting in the featherweight division for about 10 years now. I think he debuted in 2002. He's 13-1-1 over his last 15. He beat George Roop by split decision in his UFC debut. Pawlowski, 36-14, 1-0 in the UFC as well. Tyson Griffin dropped to 145, and Pawlowski spoiled his debut and knocked him out. WEC vet, 5-1 over his last 6. He's got big power in his hands. He debuted in 2002, lost his first 4 fights, and was down 36-10. So that's you don't see that much, a guy to lose his first 4 fights and then, win 36 of his next 46.
Yeah, and then goes to the WEC and UFC after that.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's a very close fight, evenly matched guys. I'm going to give Hioki the edge simply because you got the home field advantage being from Japan, so I think the fight's that close. But take Hayoki by decision.
Oh man, again with the agreeing. Maybe I'll switch this one up because, like I said, it is a tough fight. Palazewski's a warrior, and it's just that Hayoki definitely they signed him definitely as a high-end prospect, figuring that within a couple fights that he's going to be fighting for the title at 145. They got high hopes riding on the guy. He had a tough time against George Roop, whether it was because it was his first time in the octagon or just a step up in competition. He definitely had a tough time against him. But Palazewski, like you pointed out, Franco, that's a sick record to have, 36-10 over that time span. He's very heavy-handed. He's black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so it's not like it's the only tool in his belt. But like I said, I went back and forth, and I'm going to take your strategy and switch it up on the fly because I eventually settled on Hayoki, but I am getting sick of all the agreeing during this as well. So now I'm going to take Bart Palazewski, and Hayoki's never been knocked out, so I think I'm just going to puss out and go unanimous decision for Palazewski.
Very interesting, very daring. I definitely, was on the fence with this fight, but Hayoki is, like we've hit the nail on the head 17 times, 1-0 in the UFC. I think Palazewski is, he's just so heavy-handed. I think there is a chink in this chink's armor, and I think it's his chin. And I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it a level further than ESPN, and I'm going to say the chink has a chink. I have Palazewski actually catching him in the first round, and I have him putting his lights out, and then actually I should say I have him putting his slits out, and then he's basically going to finish him up. First round knockout, Palazewski.
That's very ballsy, and it could happen. Palazewski definitely has extraordinarily heavy hands for the weight class, so I can't say I'd be shocked, but I just think Hayoki's chin is a little bit better than that. But
hey, do you guys think that Asian people, instead of playing with my I Spy with my little eye, they play with I Spy with my slanted eye?
Franco, come on, you're the resident fucking KKK dude here. Why don't you respond to this? Huh.
No, I'm not going there.
To answer your question, Michael, yes, of course they do. Come on, what else would they be playing? Seriously.
Arigato, domo, thank you.
Domo, arigato, Mr. Roboto. All right, moving on to the last fight, and pits Anthony Showtime Pettis versus Joe, creative nickname J. Lau, goes on. Another pretty tough fight to call, in my opinion. So, Dolo, tell me about it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good fight, man. Joey from the block is definitely a game fighter. He put Melvin Guard out, who was dancing, walking down the aisle, and definitely served him a piece of humble pie. But he's a great fighter, man. He really is. I mean, he came into the UFC, got an early call, I should say a late call, and basically ruined the comeback of Jens Pulver. So, I mean, he's always been a guy who's been overlooked and underappreciated, and he's done nothing but perform. It's really the picture of consistency in the 55-pound division. I think Anthony Pettis is going to come out and try to make a statement. He's young as hell. He's a really versatile striker. I'm hoping he gets away from all the craziness. Feel like it's been his own demise that he's sometimes looking to do all this insane shit instead of just winning a fight. I think Luazan is a great fighter. I'm going to pick with my heart here, though. I got Pettis first round knockout.
Wow. Like I said, I was back and forth on this one a lot because Luazan definitely always comes to fight. Anytime, he's another guy, anytime you put him out and say he's not going to win this fight, he doesn't have a chance, he comes out and shocks the world. Of course, Gillard is susceptible to the choke. The guy's fought 65 times or whatever it is and can't defend a rear naked choke. Not that I want to call him out on the card because I know he'd fucking kill me if I ever met him in person, but it's just for a guy with that much experience, should have better submission defense. I think Pettis has good submission defense. He has got great subs, as we saw in the Clay Guida fight. He couldn't finish any of them, but, I mean, all his transitions and everything, if it does hit the mat, there's no advantage there for Luazan, in my opinion. So it's going to come down to what happens on the feet, and I think Pettis has better strikes overall on the feet, and I think I have to agree with Michael, except I got it in the second round. I think he's going to catch Luazan, second round KO.
All right, yeah, I think this is going to be the fight of the night. Both guys are they're similar fighters in build and their skill sets as well. Both are solid on the feet. Pettis probably a little bit more creative, and both really good on the ground. Loazan has been in the game for a while, 8-3 in the UFC. It's going to be his 12th fight. He has, a couple losses, but he's recovered really nicely. Pettis is hard to get his finger on. I think he needs to get stronger. I don't think his wrestling is as good as it could be. I think it showed in the Clay Guida fight. I just think it's Loazan's kind of hung around that mid-tier for a while, and I think it's time for him to sort of step up into the upper echelon. And Anthony Pettis is definitely a tough fighter. It's going to be a tough task, but I think Loazan's just a little bit more complete right now, so I'm going to give him a slight edge, and I'm taking Joe Loazan by decision.
Wow. Wouldn't be shocked. Like I said, I've been shocked before counting Joey Loazan out. But I don't know, boys, we got about 1:10. Anything else you want to hit up before I wrap this fucker up?
I just want to let everyone know what a vagina I am. I took all 7 of the fights and took decisions. I realized that as I was picking. Yeah.
Wow. Pussy. Real quick, I just want to say I'm going to be attempting to do a continuation sort of this show on Wednesday night. It's either going to be an hour or two, probably just an hour this Wednesday. I'm trying to feel it out. So everybody, of course, not that we have a station, tune in right back here. See how it works out. We'll see what we can put together. Obviously, this show's going to be 2 hours. That show might be 2 hours, maybe just an hour. We'll see what happens. But anything else, boyos?
That's it, my man. Take her home.
All right, everybody remember to check out RotoExperts.com.